Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining me for your 2 p.m. news and weather update. I'm Bailey Bockover. Hope you all are enjoying your Monday today. News out of Hertford County. A stray dog shot by a deputy in Hertford County sparked outcry, prompting policy change. It happened last week on South Church Road, where a Hertford County Sheriff is apologizing to the public after one of his deputies shot and killed a dog on the side of the road. It's a decision that has stirred grief and anger in the community and prompted new procedures for how authorities handle such cases. According to Whitney Coker, she first spotted the dog, described as motionless and refusing food, on Saturday night and contacted Animal Services. She said she was redirected to the sheriff's office, which sent deputies to the scene. When Coker came back the next morning, she said she found the dog had been shot in the head and its body was left in an overgrown area. Coker immediately went to social media with the news. It sparked outcry. The sheriff apologized and added, to anyone who was affected by this incident, I deeply regret how this was handled and assure you that it will not happen again. Martin's Doggy Spa in Ahoskie has fostered hundreds of cats and dogs over the years and buried the dog in her backyard after hearing of its death. And in other news, a judge has okayed a settlement in North Carolina voter registration lawsuit by the Justice Department. The federal judge on Monday approved a plan to settle a lawsuit filed by President Donald Trump's Justice Department that demanded North Carolina election officials accumulate identification numbers lacking on the records of more than 100,000 voters. U.S. District Judge Richard Myers signed the proposed consent agreement filed a few days ago by lawyers for the department's Civil Rights Division and the State Board of Elections. They said it would ensure that the state's compliance with federal law and avoid an expensive trial. The May 27th lawsuit accused the State Board of violating the Help America Vote Act by failing to ensure registration records are accurate for federal officials. The State Board voted along party lines last month to require this group to cast provisional ballots until their ID numbers were validated. The board, meeting again Monday, instead agreed unanimously these voters can keep casting regular ballots as long as they have shown an ID at the polls, keeping with the state law. Well, now let's take a look at our forecast with meteorologist Russell James. Russell, what are we looking like outside?
Well, it's sunny with some scattered clouds, and we're also dealing with some breezy conditions today across several backyards. So here's a look ahead at your upcoming forecast. So for the rest of today, again, breezy conditions, sun and clouds sticking around, even going into your Tuesday as well. Nice weather continuing. Another breezy day along the coast with low humidity, but then going into Wednesday, we'll have to monitor for the chance for a few passing showers off the coast, along with increasing clouds, mostly due to a cold front basically draped across the coastal waters off of the coast of the southeastern United States. You definitely see the cloud cover all the way from the Outer Banks down into the Midlands of South Carolina, with the rain mainly just sitting offshore, and that's resulting in these overcast skies, even down in Morehead City, where we've seen temperatures into the middle 70s, north breeze around 15 miles an hour. And when you look at the winds, mainly just across the entire part of our area, we've been seeing sustained winds generally around 15 to 20 miles per hour, with gusts as high as 30 miles an hour, with weaker winds a little bit further inland. So as we go through the rest of this afternoon and into the evening and overnight hours, notice how the winds increase along the coast. We could see gusts around 30, close to 40 miles an hour. And then heading into Tuesday, more of the same. I mean, as long as this low pressure system along with the stationary boundary remains off the coast, we're going to continue to see unsettled conditions, at least in the forms of wind. So if you're thinking about going towards the coast, maybe doing some offshore fishing, you definitely want to be taking it easy out there on the water. Seas will definitely be choppy over the next 24 to 48 hours. And as for temperatures, we'll go from the upper 70s down to around 58 tonight, and then we're going to heat up yet again to around 76 degrees, and as long as we'll have a persistent northeasterly breeze, it should be fairly mild and pleasant. However, there are signs that as we go into Tuesday morning, notice how we have a stationary boundary there, the green off the coast representing rain. Darker the greens, the heavier the precipitation. Notice how the rain tries to sneak its way closer towards the Outer Banks as we go into Tuesday, and especially as we get closer into Wednesday. And with the close approach to our area, I've added a 30% chance of a brief shower, mostly for the coastal spots, and then we'll start to dry out as we go into Thursday and Friday. And then we'll watch out for another coastal low trying to develop going into the weekend. But again, right now, a lot of the forecast guidance keep it mainly off the coast. So aside from that, Bailey, it is nice and quiet off in the southwestern Atlantic, over the northern Gulf, as well as parts of the Caribbean and even the main development region. Very unusual for what we're seeing right now. Meanwhile, the Pacific side still very active, with an area that has about a 30 now up to a 40% chance of developing, and really the only hurricane threatening the U.S. in any way, shape, or form is out in Hawaii, and Hurricane Kiko is going to be passing just off towards the north, away from the Hawaiian Islands. So that is great news for the most part, but in the short term, quiet conditions. Notice there on Wednesday, I've bumped the temperatures down to 75. There are signs that we'll have a reinforcing shot of cooler air that may actually prevent some of us, especially north of Highway 264, getting out of the 60s. Meanwhile, the coast could just remain in the upper 70s.
Alrighty, sounds good. Well, thank you, Russell. Sounds like a beautiful forecast. Honestly, the 70s, mid to upper 70s are going to feel nice, but even the low 80s are going to be great as well, right?
Yeah, it's going to be a very great forecast. What makes it so interesting for me is there's not much to talk about. So we have to find a way of creating, the conversation, being creative, diving into the details. And really, essentially, if you're inland, you're good. If you're on the coast, you just have to watch out for, of course, the marine conditions and the strong northeasterly breezes over the coming days.
Great. Well, thank you, Russell. Thank you all for joining us for your 2 p.m. news and weather update. You can join Russell and I back on ENC at 3.